Oh, I had to put on my x-ray glasses for this. We got the new filing I was expecting in the Judge Xinis Armando Abrego Garcia case by the federal government. We had a 2-part filing in which they say to the judge, hey, you know that contempt motion and those proceedings you were doing because we've been jerking around with not returning Abrego Garcia since the April 10th Supreme Court decision told us that we had to. We finally got around on June 6th to bring him home only because there's an indictment in Maryland that he needs to be arraigned on. Hey, you don't need to supervise this case anymore, Judge. We brought him home, just like you told us. We facilitated his release. So all good now? No. I'm on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. Let's get to the how do I put this nicely? The insufficiency of this and how this opens up a whole new can of worms. And as I said yesterday in another hot take, this combination of the filing with Pam Bondi's press conference, I'm going to show you the clip again, in which she announced the indictment and the fact that Abrego Garcia was coming home because he's a murderer and he's a gangbanger and he's MS-13 and all that. Except when you read the indictment in Tennessee for a traffic stop 3 years ago, that was dismissed by the FBI at the time and by the state troopers at the time. You see, it's just a ruse. And none of that mentions he's a murderer. Let's get to the new filing. I said that Judge Xinis was going to require on an order to show cause to find out why suddenly, after they said they were never going to bring him back, Abrego Garcia, they taunted the justice system. Pam Bondi, as head of the Department of Justice, said, we will never see Armando Abrego come back ever. In fact, I have that clip. Here's the clip. This was just a month or so ago. Let's run the Pam Bondi clip.
He was deported. They needed one additional step in paperwork, but now MS-13 is characterized as they should be, as an FTO, as a foreign terrorist organization. So he is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story.
And then, of course, you have the taunting, right, from the White House official social media account with the revised headline, obviously a work of Stephen Miller, who wrote, we'll never bring him back. He's never coming home. Ha, ha, ha. And when they had Bukele in the office, the president of El Salvador, they were taunting the justice system, Judge Xinis, the Supreme Court. We will never smuggle him in. He's a killer. He's a murderer. The guy hasn't committed any crimes, that he hasn't been charged with any crimes until this one that just came out at the end of May. Now they filed a notice with the judge. Here's what they told the judge. Defendant's notice of compliance with preliminary injunction. Hey, Judge, remember that preliminary injunction we took up to the Supreme Court? We finally lost 9-0. Yeah, we finally got around to complying with it, even though we told you we never would, and we wouldn't tell you how we were complying with it, but we did. All better now? Here's what they say. On April 4th, 2025, this court ordered defendants to facilitate the return of plaintiff Kilmer Armando Abrego Garcia to the United States. They then jerked around, just side commentary, they then jerked around for the next weeks before they lost at the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals twice. They lost at the United States Supreme Court 9-0 to teach them what the word facilitate means. But I digress. Defendants hereby provide notice that they've complied with the court's order and indeed have successfully facilitated Abrego Garcia's return. As the Attorney General recently announced, Abrego Garcia was returned to the United States today to stand trial on criminal charges in the Middle District of Tennessee. Considering this development, the court's preliminary injunction should be dissolved and the underlying case should be dismissed as moot. And we want immediate stay of all the deadlines. All better? No. Let's watch the Bondi press conference just yesterday in which she announced the indictment and the return, and she gets a pointed question she's obviously not ready for from the press. Here you go.
Maybe I misunderstood you, but you were mentioning, that he had some involvement in a murder, or was connected to groups that had, involved with this other smuggling ring. But to be clear, the only charges he's facing right now are the human smuggling charges, just that's the one offense. But the other things that you have talked about are not actually in the indictment?
No, co-conspirators allege that, and we were clear to say that. He is charged with It's not only very serious charges of alien smuggling. And again, there were children involved in that. You know, human trafficking, not only in our country, but in our world, is very, very real. It's very dangerous. And as you saw recently in Virginia, the arrest we made of the MS-13 member, unrelated to this, we learned at that press conference, that's where they bring young children into our country and they start grooming them at middle school age to become MS-13 full-fledged members, commit violent crimes throughout our country. It is highly organized. It is very dangerous. And they are living throughout our country, but no more, because they are being arrested, they are being prosecuted, and being convicted and deported when appropriate. That's all for today. Thank you.
You get a double Bondi here. It's like Jeopardy. You get a double Bondi showcase, daily double. Oh, God. That statement, the one that was just filed here, does not answer the questions. It actually begs more questions than it answers. It proves that they had the power, the control over the jail in El Salvador, the ability to return him on a moment's notice and bring him back whenever they wanted to. They just wanted to bring him back after the indictment was filed, not before. And the indictment was filed on May the 21st. So this only proves the point raised also by Jeb Boasberg, the judge in D.C., in which he said on the same day, 2 days ago, yeah, you have control over, U.S. has control over that prison. So therefore, I'm certifying a class of 250 people that are sitting in El Salvador, requiring you to, wait for it, facilitate their return. This only proves they have the juice to do it, even though they've been denying it since April. This proves that they're in contempt. It doesn't solve their contempt. It's the opposite. They also filed a letter on the same day. Very active Department of Justice on the 6th of June. And I don't feel bad for him, but the piñata chosen by the Department of Justice is Drew C. Ensign, Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Office of Immigration Litigation. He already had to fire one of his friends in the Abrego Garcia case because he accidentally told the truth in court that the Trump administration knew that there was an order to prevent Abrego Garcia from being sent to El Salvador, and ICE didn't care and threw him on the plane anyway. That guy's no longer with us. I mean, I think he's with us, but he's no longer with the Department of Justice. So Drew Ensign is the punching bag du jour who has to file these things and sign them with the federal court and will stand in front of Xinis unless she calls Pam Bondi onto the carpet and into her courtroom. They then continue to defend, we brought him back, but we won't tell you how. It's like a magic trick. We cut the body in half. We won't tell you our trick. It's magician privilege. They've been arguing that they have the right under state secret privilege and executive privilege and all these other things to not tell Judge Xinis, to allow her to administer justice in her courtroom, to allow her or any federal court to provide proper oversight over the executive branch. They won't tell her, and they're going to hide behind privilege, a privilege that doesn't apply and has been stripped away time and time again in similar circumstances. So they say, first of all, we returned him. So stay all of these issues. There's no more injunction that you need to worry about. And we're all better now. But the fact that they have now finally 2 months later gotten around to complying doesn't mean that they're not in contempt for all of their attempts not to comply over the last 2 months. That's the problem. It doesn't make it all better now. That was in a very, very similar situation as in the Jeb Boasberg case, the judge in D.C., when he made 2 separate orders to ground the planes to make sure they didn't even go to El Salvador. That got violated because they didn't ground the planes. They did wheels up and flew people there. And then when they got there and the Supreme Court ultimately said, well, you got to give due process, but the due process has to be in the courts where these people reside. So maybe it's not DC at the time. You know, the Trump administration said, hey, you can't find us in contempt, because we ultimately prevailed at the Supreme Court. And Judge Boasberg said, yeah, that's not how contempt works. You can't do bad things and violate my orders, hoping that someday you may get a reversal of my decision. You're still in contempt. Same thing with Xinis. So I'm going to continue to follow this is going to be a very active case. The Judge Xinis and Judge Boasberg cases against this administration. This is not the end. This is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. I assure you. Follow everything here on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. Follow us on Legal AF, the podcast, Legal AF, the YouTube channel. You're here already. Just hit the subscribe button. That really helps. And all these things that I'm talking about, I post on Legal AF Substack so you can see it for yourself. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.